Before we plunge into the freezing darkness, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, because the information I'm about to give you is the only thing that keeps the lights on when the rest of the world goes black. Day 842. It's been over 2 years since the grid went down, and the silence is louder than the riots used to be. The gas stations have been dry bones for 18 months, picked clean by the panicked masses and then the warlords. You're sitting in a room that feels more like a tomb, watching your breath cloud in the freezing air, clutching a flashlight with batteries that are fading fast. The silence of the power lines isn't peaceful. It's a predator. It's the sound of the pumps stopping, the heaters dying, and the civilization you knew dissolving into entropy. The wind outside is howling, rattling the loose panes in your window, mocking you. It's stealing the heat from your walls, trying to freeze you out. But that wind isn't just an enemy trying to kill you. It's a ghost carrying millions of volts of potential energy, screaming to be caught. Most people think the end of the world means the end of electricity. They think power is a luxury that vanished with the utility companies, something magic that comes out of a wall socket. That belief is why they will freeze, and you won't. They are hoarding dead alkaline batteries and praying for a restoration that is never coming. You need to stop looking at the ruins of your city as a graveyard and start looking at it as a hardware store. Physics didn't die when the government collapsed. If you can spin a magnet inside a coil of copper wire, you have power. Today, we are going to take the trash rotting in your garage and the debris scattering the streets to build a wind turbine capable of charging a 12-volt bank. We are going to turn that hostile, freezing gale into the heartbeat of your survival system, and we're going to do it with nothing but grit and scavenged junk. The first step is finding the heart of your generator, and for that, you need to stop looting electronics stores and start looking at the abandoned gyms. You are looking for a treadmill. Most modern appliances use cheap AC motors that are useless for wind power without complex gearing. But an old, heavy-duty treadmill usually contains a permanent magnet DC motor. Rip the casing off the front. You want the heavy metal cylinder connected to the belt drive. Spin the shaft with your fingers. If you feel a magnetic cogging or resistance, you've struck gold. This isn't just a motor, it is a ready-made generator that produces voltage at low RPMs. The magic here is in the permanent magnets. They provide the magnetic field for free, meaning you don't need to waste battery power to excite a field coil. Expert tip: check the rating plate for PMDC and a high voltage rating, like 90 or 130 volts. High-voltage motors produce usable 12-volt charging power at much lower wind speeds, meaning you get power even on a calm day. Now that you have the heart, you need the wings to catch the wind, and for this you're going to scavenge Schedule 40 PVC pipe. Don't waste your time with wood. It warps in the rain and throws the balance off, shaking your tower apart. Take a 6-inch diameter PVC pipe and cut it into quarter sections lengthwise. These curved strips are naturally shaped like airfoils. When the wind hits the curve, it creates a pressure differential. Lift, just like an airplane wing, pulling the blade around rather than just pushing it. This is the difference between a drag device that fights the wind and a lift device that harvests it. Sand the leading edge round and the trailing edge sharp. The expert edge here is balance. If one blade is a gram heavier than the others, at 300 RPM, your turbine becomes a jackhammer that will shear its own mount. Weigh them, sand them, and match them perfectly. You have a motor and blades, but you need a hub to marry them, and the most rugged piece of steel in your garage is an old circular saw blade. It's perfectly flat, hardened steel and already has a centered hole. Drill 3 holes equidistant around the perimeter and bolt your PVC blades directly to the saw blade. Then, mount the saw blade to the treadmill motor's flywheel. The physics here relies on the flywheel effect. The mass of the hub helps maintain momentum during gusts, smoothing out the power spikes that could fry your charge controller. Make sure you use lock washers and thread locker on every bolt. In a survival scenario, maintenance is dangerous. You don't want to be climbing a tower in an ice storm because a 10-cent nut vibrated loose. Your turbine needs to face the wind to work, so you need a yaw bearing, and the best place to find one is under your butt right now. The swivel mechanism from an old office chair is built to take hundreds of pounds of vertical load while spinning freely. Remove the seat, bolt the base to your tower mast, and mount your motor assembly to the top plate. This allows the turbine to hunt for the wind, spinning 360 degrees without binding. The psychological shift here is realizing that survival isn't about reinventing the wheel. It's about repurposing the engineering that civilization threw away. Grease this bearing heavily. If it freezes up in a blizzard, your turbine will be stuck facing the wrong way, stalling out while you freeze in the dark. To keep the turbine pointing into the wind, you need a tail. And this is where simple leverage beats high-tech engineering. Cut a large fin from a piece of marine plywood or a street sign. Mount it on a boom sticking out the back of the motor, at least 3 feet long. The length of the boom is the magic. It acts as a lever arm. The wind pressure on the tail forces the whole assembly to pivot on your office chair bearing until the blades are square to the wind. A common mistake is making the tail too small or the boom too short, causing the turbine to whip back and forth violently in turbulence. You want a slow, steady track, not a jittery panic. Now you have to get this machine into the air, and this is where the spotlight effect becomes a tactical risk. You need height, because wind speed increases drastically the higher you go, but a spinning turbine is a beacon to looters. You need a mast that is sturdy but manageable. Scavenge the top rail from a chain-link fence. The galvanized steel is tough and fits together. For guy wires, do not use rope, which stretches and rots. Slice the seatbelts out of abandoned cars. Seatbelts are woven nylon designed to withstand the shock force of a car crash. They won't snap in a gale. Anchor them to the corners of your roof or deep into the ground. Tension them tight. When you hoist this tower, you are raising a flag that says, "I have power," so camouflage the pole with gray paint and pray the noise doesn't carry. The raw electricity coming down the wire from your treadmill motor is wild and unusable. It flows in 2 directions or fluctuates wildly. You need a blocking diode, or better yet, a bridge rectifier. If you can't find one, you can rip the alternator out of that same car you took the seatbelts from. Inside the alternator is a component called the rectifier bridge, a cluster of diodes that act as one-way check valves for electricity. They allow the power to flow from the turbine to your battery, but they stop the battery from dumping power back into the motor when the wind dies, which would turn your generator into a fan and drain your reserves in minutes. Mount this on a piece of aluminum as a heatsink, because the conversion of energy creates heat, and heat kills electronics. Finally, you need a way to weaponize this energy. It's not enough to just charge a battery for a radio. You need a photon shield. Scavenge a high-intensity headlamp bulb and the reflective dish from an old satellite TV setup. Polish the dish to a mirror finish and mount the bulb at the focal point. When you dump the raw power of a storm into this rig, it doesn't just make light. It creates a focused beam of blinding intensity. In a world of total darkness, human eyes are fully dilated. A sudden blast of 2,000 lumens isn't just illumination. It's a non-lethal weapon that destroys the night vision of an attacker, hiding your numbers and buying you those critical seconds to rack the slide of your shotgun or escape out the back. This is the philosophy of the new world. You don't survive by hiding in a hole. You survive by mastering the physics of your environment. You stop being a victim of the cold and become a harvester of it. You stop fearing the dark and start controlling the light. When you drive those screws and hoist that tower, you are declaring that you are still civilized, that you can still manipulate the laws of nature to serve you. Let's go back to the scenario. It's 3 a.m., day 8:42. The storm is peaking and the wind is screaming at 50 miles per hour. Your turbine is singing, a high-pitched mechanical whine that cuts through the gale. That noise has drawn them. Three shadows moving through the broken glass of the street below, drawn to the sound of power like moths to a flame. They think they've found a victim. You watch them from the window, hand hovering over a heavy toggle switch. You're not afraid. You're ready. You flip the switch. The photon shield detonates into the darkness, a lance of pure white light that pins them against the asphalt, blinding them, exposing them. They scramble, terrified by the sudden sun, retreating back into the shadows. You turn the switch off, the silence returns, and you check your voltmeter. 13.8 volts. You are fully charged. Stay sharp, stay powered, and tell me in the comments, what is the first piece of scrap you'd scavenge in a blackout?